Story.com. As usual, I bring you some wonderful people who can guide you, help you in setting up startups. Today, I've got Jitendra Chaddah, the Senior Director of Intel. How are you, sir?
Very good, Vishal. Thank you. Thanks for calling me in here.
Thanks for dropping in because, it's important to meet corporates. We have a bunch of startups out there who are looking towards the large companies for guidance. And today, we are here to talk about hardware. And I just want to pick on a very inane question. Hardware means, like you said, building a solution, right, over software and networking. What's the hardware scene in India today? What's happening?
So, just Vishal, before we start on that, I just want to mention to to your audience. You said bigger companies are looking to give guidance to the startups or smaller companies. I would also say we are also looking
it's very humbling
to get inspired by all the innovations these startups are doing, and actually we also why we want to interact with them is that in reverse we want to also learn from them.
Fantastic.
Right? So that is the mindset, at least at Intel we have as far as startups are concerned.
Okay, so there's a lot of innovation happening in India.
There is, if you really look at innovation is happening in the technology space, both within the companies. Companies like Intel, they have a lot of innovations happening inside, and there is a lot of innovation, happening, outside. When we say outside, in the startup world, the startup ecosystem, and over the last 8 to 10 years, we have, seen, where the startup ecosystem and how it has grown in India. What you can see multiple reports, but people say, hey, this is now the third largest, tech startup ecosystem hub in the world, named after US, Israel, and so on. So I think a lot of progress and lot of progress plus the support with that this ecosystem has grown up over the last 10 years.
Okay, interesting. But you were saying that never compare the hardware ecosystem to where software industry grows.
Yeah.
Right? You want to explain that to us a bit, please?
Yeah, and we basically want to be working with all the ecosystems, hardware, software, hardware plus software, services and so on. I think your question is leading towards, hey, are these software and hardware ecosystem little bit different, and why they are different? Yes. So I would say, yes, from multiple aspects. The core is same, that you want to solve a big problem or a problem for either a customer or for an enterprise or for a business. The core is same, but how you go about solving a problem and what is required when you deal with a hardware ecosystem, it has its own nuances that has to be understood by the ecosystem understood by the players who want to grow this ecosystem. So a couple of things there. In hardware space, if you look at it, when you build the solution, you need a little bit more lead time, because you are building a prototype, you are assembling a lot of products and solutions together, to build a final hardware product that has hardware, software, communication,
networking,
all built into the box. So you require at least 18 months to 2 years of a time to really even come to a great prototype that can be scaled.
So the prototype itself takes about 18 to 3 years.
It takes
18 months to
9 months to 12 months for prototype, and then after that
testing
the real product, testing of that product, and then after 2 years you can start scaling. Right?
Unlike a software company where you can immediately launch and
you can immediately launch. You can have the teams. You can work out of your garage and bedrooms, and you can deploy it much more easier than what you can do with the hardware ecosystem. Then it requires time, and it requires much more capital investment in this ecosystem. Not only just prototyping requires more capital, but then when you are scaling, when you are manufacturing the product, you may not be able to do it within India. You may have to
bring it from China,
collaborate with other ecosystems in the world. So it requires much more capital and also operational capital, right, to be
and
able
also to stay relevant,
business.
right? Because it may be 3-4 years,
Yeah.
and you have to be relevant to the market at that point in time.
That I think in software also you have to be, just be as innovation in the tech industry. I think if to be relevant, you have to be innovating constantly. That is you have
That's
to
a
do
given.
as a given. Yeah. So those are the two aspects. So one is that you require more time. Second, you require much more capital, and then third one is you have to be much more collaborative with lot of other people that you need to bring them as partners. Whether it is a manufacturing house or whether it is other software solutions that you want to embed or incorporate within your hardware solution.
And that's why you're saying that the industry should be wired differently.
Yeah.
Right?
So
it's not like the software industry again.
Yes.
It requires multiple partnerships.
Absolutely right. So if so, as say if I'm a VC, for example, I cannot compare these two with the similar timelines and the similar returns. Yeah, it's not an apples to apples comparison. So you have to give more time, more capital, and think how you will get the returns would be different. They would come over the time, but it will require more time. So if I am a hardware company, I understand is at Intel. Yes. But if somebody else who is not into the hardware ecosystem, like say for example, if the governments are trying to incentivize and support these two ecosystems, they have to have policies and incentives that are a little bit different for the hardware and system ecosystem as compared to what we have in the software space. Yeah.
So it's also related to manufacturing, right? The policies and incentives should carry over there too. There are many people who say that we can never compare or compete with China and Taiwan to manufacture things, but we can still import things from there, and something should be done to help our startup ecosystem that way, right?
Yeah. On manufacturing, yes, that's a separate ball game where we electronics manufacturing, and we need to. There is a lot of opportunity that we can work on that. I think in the mobile space we are already seeing a lot of initiative and activity already happening. No, I wouldn't even say we need to compete with Taiwan or China. I think it is more how do we collaborate and have a healthy competition that created. We can complement them in certain places. They can complement us in ways. And I think we need to find where are the right places we need to build our manufacturing ecosystem in the country, and what are the incentives. And it would not happen. I don't think it would happen exactly what happened in China. In that we have to find our own niche and the ways on how we.
Do you think let's go back a bit in time, say maybe only 6-7 years ago, do you think the hardware ecosystem has moved in leaps and bounds in India the last 7 years?
I wouldn't say moved leaps and bounds. I think there is a lot of good manufacturing activity that has happened in the electronics manufacturing space. I just gave you the example in the mobile space it has happened. Let's step back a little bit, right? If you really look at the overall digital economy in India, I think there is today it is 170 billion or so of it is in the hardware space, hardware and system space. Now, of which I think 40 to 50% we still import today, because these solutions come from
especially outside. Networking solutions, mostly.
Yeah, a lot of all the IT based solutions. A lot of it is coming from outside. Now there is a good opportunity that we can really reduce our import bill. Nice. If we start to do a value addition or manufacturing or or making these systems and products in the country, and this consumption of in our digital economy is only going to grow over the next 3 to 4 years. So you really do not want to come to a space where your import bill is actually increaving
and reduces your balance of payments in the long run.
Yes. So it is in the benefit of the country to really accelerate the evolution of this ecosystem in the country, and many steps are being taken, and that's why you see in last 4 to 5 years you have many accelerators that have been developed to support the hardware ecosystem in the country. Actually, Intel was one of the first companies 3 to 4 years back to have a very structured program. We call it Maker Lab, program that we had to support the hardware and system startups in the country.
And you worked with 60, you say, in that program, right?
Yeah, over the time, I think directly we have worked with 60, but indirectly we have supported many more. And it's not about just one Intel's Maker Lab program. We really want to develop the overall hardware and systems startup ecosystem in the country.
So what happens when one applies to the Maker Lab? They get to collaborate with different accelerators. They also get access to the government.
Yeah.
What is the end goal for Intel also?
See, our end goal is to encourage innovation within the ecosystem and within the tech ecosystem, and directly, indirectly, we will benefit from that innovation, right? All the tech companies, will benefit, and we will be able to bring out solutions that help the customers make their lives better, help businesses to make their businesses more efficient and profitable, and so on and so forth. But I think our goal with Maker Lab is, how can we encourage these hardware and system based startups to bring out the right solutions, and more importantly accelerate their journey of from innovation to scale, help them in all aspects of the life cycle of product development.
And they come from all verticals: agri-tech, health tech.
Yeah, so
industrial IoT.
Yeah, so far we have been agnostic to the verticals. We have been more, interested in what is the idea, what is the solution, and what is the viability of that hardware and software putting together and taking the solution to the market. So in Maker Lab, what we do is we provide them with infrastructure support. They would have access to a lot of our lab equipment, the tools that they can use. They would have access to our technologists who can mentor them to accelerate their design and development process. We connect them to our partner companies and partner organizations who can help them support. They can either become their customers or test customers, and also provide them business and technical solutions. Also, we have partnered with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and SINE, which is IIT Mumbai, to also bring in funding for these startups, at least in the initial phases.
And also train these kids, right?
Oh yes, and they are no kids, right? I can tell you that much. You get so much of great ideas and thoughts from them. So what we want to do is, they may have a good idea, they may have a good technology thought process, but at times what we have seen is they might be missing the business aspect of it, the financials of it, which partners they should go and collaborate, which ones would be better for them. So all that knowledge base, I think SINE comes in and brings that education and training and workshops for them in the initial phase.
So it's not just that one company can solve all this. You were also earlier saying that it's an entire ecosystem that should come together.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think, see, I told you about the import bill.
Yes.
I think the government's priority there is that, hey, how this ecosystem develops so that we can do more value addition from India. So government is providing, has a lot of funding mechanisms. They have made changes in the policy so that these startups can be supported. We are interested because we want to see, when I say we, companies like Intel are interested to develop this ecosystem, because we want to tap into the innovations that are happening in this ecosystem. And the better the innovations, the more consumption of tech solutions happen, the technology companies benefit out of it.
You've been around for 23 years in Intel. You've seen tech change leaps and bounds. You're saying that it's beginning to help people even more pervasively than ever before. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think technology. If you look at any aspects of people's lives or businesses, it has made improvements in leaps and bounds. Right today. Let's take a healthcare industry. I think the solutions that we are seeing, I think it's helping old age people, to be cared about better. they can be monitored at their homes and then be treated by doctors from any remote places. They if they need some help, there are equipments being developed which can help them with walking and so on and so forth. So you take agri-tech, there are solutions being developed so that the farmers can predict the weather much better.
Soil conditions, weather,
soil conditions, the sensors that are being developed for testing the soils and so on and so forth. So I think in any aspect of our lives and the productivity in the businesses, if you really look at it, our factories, the amount of technology that has gone in and the productivity increase that we have seen, the reduction in accidents in that industry that we are seeing. I think this is all being worked. This is being possible because of the technology usage that we are seeing.
And as per the Maker Lab thing, can they apply for it now? When do applications open up?
Yeah, see, actually we are open all the time. So Intel's Maker Lab, people should understand, if you have a hardware-based solution. When I say hardware-based, hardware, software put together based idea solution that you want to put in, we are open all the time. You can go to Intel's website and then send a mail, and we would take
and
you.
When you
in.
send a mail, it will be a pitch deck and the product portfolio.
Yeah, you can send your idea. You can send, or to start with. I think you should talk. You can talk to any of us. There are few people you can talk to. There are contacts there, and then we can talk about your idea. And depending upon what you require, we would be able to support any given point of time. But officially, we also do is every year we send a mailer out and say, hey, throw your ideas to us, and we have a committee of experts from the industry, not necessarily only Intel, experts from the industry who have built their solutions or companies. They judge those ideas, and we take 15 to 18 ideas every year. And then incorporate them into a formal program where Sign comes in and trains them for 3 to 4 months.
So everything from idea stage to setting up company, if it's viable.
Yes, idea stage, setting up company, prototype, get into the customers or connecting them to the customers, and also later on our partners helping them with production and so on. We would help out. So formally we do that once a year, but we are open to help. And
anybody
incorporate them within the program.
But can anybody walk into the lab and just say that, hey, I want to have a look at it? Can startups do that?
Well, you can walk in the sense, yes. If you have a certain need, if you need an equipment, if you need a tool that is available in Maker Lab, it's almost as easy as walk in.
And Maker Lab is in Bangalore, of course.
Yes. So we have Maker Labs in 2 places. One is in Bangalore, our Sarjapur Ring Road campus. We have a facility, and then one more we have opened in Mumbai, in near IIT, because Sign is there and they can help them do the work over there.
So it's access to any startup that wants to go see it, and obviously, but you guys have to apply for it formally. Yeah,
formally apply, and then informally or outside of that formal processes, you just talk to us. If you need some help, we would still open.
Fantastic. You should also tell these young startups out there in the hardware space that leadership here is different. It's again, when you're managing a manufacturing side of things, there are several things that you've got to keep in mind. It's not like the software industry. You want to explain, we could start off with compliances, because that's what you told me, that if you're a hardware company, you need to be compliant with regulation.
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? So when you are building a company, I think, and it has the hardware, software-based solutions, system-based solutions, I think you have to look at different aspects of it. Number one, you have to be clear that you would have to collaborate with different entities. It's not necessarily you will also be manufacturing the product that you're designing or building the solution. So you have to think right in advance, how would you finally build or manufacture that solution. You would have to take care of the supply chain requirements that you would cater once you start to scale up, if you are in a certain regulated industries, you have to look at what are the compliances, the licenses.
Especially healthcare, right?
Yeah, especially the healthcare, and also sometimes in the manufacturing space, there are the rules and regulations. You have to abide by that right from the very beginning, you have to think about it when you're designing the product, how you go about it.
And it's not just a box that you create. You were saying
Yeah.
that you also have to figure out services now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think, why I say that, you have to, it cannot be just about, see, if you have a very innovative, deep tech idea, maybe, just the box would suffice and you will win in the marketplace. But, if you are building a solution, if it is easily can be repeated by somebody, then you have to build the whole solution, which includes some services model to it,
Okay.
some software component that adds value, that becomes a differentiator for you, right, than just the box, right? So you have to think about the system, the software that goes into it, the services that you would provide, and then how you create a business model around it. So you have to think through all those
And
aspects.
then you have to scale globally. And if you build
Yeah.
for India, you got to be very careful. You were saying.
Yeah, no, if you can build for India, India is a big enough market. But I always, think people who start with India and then think and go global. That would be one model
Ideal.
you can think of it. And I actually would not hesitate to say that even if you have an idea that needs a global intervention before it can come to India, don't hesitate on it. Build for it. I think that could also.
It's interesting. You've now become the chairman of IESA, which is the authority for the semiconductor industry in India
And electronics.
and electronics, obviously. What do you intend to achieve in your stint there as chairman?
Yes, so couple of things. I wouldn't say just at my stint. I think I'm thinking long term. Even if it does not happen in my tenure, that's okay. But two or three main things. I already talked about this whole electronics or intelligent electronics ecosystem or consumption of it is growing very fast in the country, and we need to make sure as the consumption grows, the production or the creation of it in India is happening at the same rate, because we don't want to create like we have an oil bill, we don't want to create an electronics bill as heavy as that, right? So the effort of ISA is to make sure we bring in the investments, we work with the government, state governments and the central government to make sure we have policies so that more and more creation can happen of intelligent electronics in the country.
So just take a step back. You should explain to them that electronics is a major bill for our country.
Yeah.
And they might ask me what kind of electronics. Would you know what kind of electronics adds to our bill?
Well, it's everything you see, everything that you are consuming, today, it has electronics in it. Whether you look at your automobiles, it is becoming more and more electronics heavy. The sensors and the solutions that are going in. You look at medical equipments that are that we are using, and more as the life progresses. We have in the retail the solutions that you are building, from POS to how our goods are tracking over your goods and so on. Every aspect, if you just think of it today, every aspect of your life and business is connected to something electronic.
Wow.
So all these solutions, as I said before, 40-50% of it is still getting imported today. So ISA's one of the goals is, how do we make sure that we close the gap, or at least not have the gas gap increase as this consumption is increasing in the near term. Then second, what we want to do is, to be able to do that, we want to work with all the governments, state and the center, to make sure that we have the right policies so that right investments can come into the electronics and semiconductor space in the country. We want to, the third goal of ISA is to work with to be a bridge between the academia and the industry, so that we can work with the academia to make sure the people who we are developing, the students, are ready for the industry that is growing very fast. And we work with the industry to make sure they are giving the right information back into the academia.
And the hardware industry is also it can employ a lot of people.
Yeah, it does. And direct employment and then indirect employment, right? Every direct employment you give, you have 4 or 5 indirect employments that you create.
There's
right?
one audience question. Do you want to take it?
I can.
Okay,
Sure.
they say, I mean, if somebody enters this program, they're saying that this is a classic question. Is there any VC funding or investment support from Intel?
Yeah. So as I said, this program we market it as plug-in. It has so this is a program that is supported by DST, Department of Science and Technology, SIGN and Intel together. So when you enter the program, there is a funding provided as part of your selection process. So once you are selected, you have a funding that is given to you, and this funding is divided into 2 parts or 3 parts, I think. So first funding is given for you to do a prototype. Once you have the prototype, the next level of funding comes in, and then the third. So yes, it has that funding mechanism built in the program. But more importantly, what we do is we bring in lot of VC community once your product is in a certain stage, and lot of other tech companies come together and help you demonstrate, help you work with them to take your product to the next level.
It's fantastic, sir. I mean, I wish you all the best as chairman of Iesa, and as part of Intel's Makers Lab. I hope good people apply to the program.
Yeah.
And guys, don't be scared to build hardware. The only thing that they have to keep in mind that the gestation period is long.
Yeah.
Right? Don't worry about anything. Go build original things.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can reduce the balance of payments for India. Right? Yeah. And what are your favorite books and inspirations apart from all this? How do you spend your time?
The people who know me may laugh if you're asking about books, because I have not been a good student right from the very beginning in my school days, right? But lately I have started reading a little bit. Since this is a soft or the startup community, that Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 is just inspired me and helped me a lot. And I think he wrote it for the startups, but it is the best economics book I have read.
It's so simple to understand.
Yeah, it's so simple to understand. So I think that one I would highly recommend.
Great. Anything else? Since you said you don't read and all that, and what do you really do apart from building, Intel and all that?
Well, the Intel work and then Iesa work, and then I'm passionate about meeting a lot of people. It keeps me, quite busy. But apart from that, I try to be, home with my wife, and we have a dog, so just enjoy.
So you're more of a family man.
Well, I don't know what my wife will say, but yeah, from work and home, those are the 2 favorite places I have.
Guys, it's been a wonderful conversation. Write questions to us. We'll get Intel to answer it. Thank you, Jitendra, for being on the show. Thank you very much.
Vishal. It was a pleasure being here, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you very much. And